Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to Kucoin as episode 19, and today we are going to go over 7 altcoins that are forming a very similar pattern for it to be a good correlation example. If you don't know about Kucoin, it's one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world with over 700 billion traded volume on the platform and 10 million registered users from more than 200 different countries. Kucoin has many features like margin trading, spot trading, trading bots, mining pool, lending, staking, and many more, with over 700 listed coins. If you don't have an account yet, I'll make sure to attach my referral link in the description below, and if you create an account through it, you'll benefit from 20% discounts on your trading fees. So let's do it, and as usual, cheers. The first one is Link. I also mentioned this one, I guess, the previous 2 episodes on episode 16 or 17. Feel free to check it out. We previously have been trading inside this big wedge pattern, and lately we are stuck inside the range in the shape of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Inverse head and shoulders pattern is simply what? Price failing to make a lower low, instead making a higher low like this. It would be an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So it's a simple market structure pattern. So we've got a lower low, and now price, at least of course if price reverses from here, we will have a higher low. But of course this would be also an early alert that a potential reversal might happen. But for the boost to take over, we need to see a break above the previous major high, which happens to be around the trend line, 10 round number, and it's also covering the entire structure. So for Link, for the boost to take over from a long-term perspective, we need to see a break above this area. In this case, we'll be expecting a movement to the next resistance around 20. Meanwhile, and as we approach this lower area around 5, support area and so on, which is also a support, as you can see multiple rejections from, we'll be looking for buy setups from a short-term perspective, because Link can still dive inside this area before trading higher. So we'll be catching this impulse movement, and then when we have this break, we'll be expecting a longer-term bullish movement. In this case, we'll have a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish, and we can actually see the shift in momentum in action as we've got big impulse, smaller impulse, and getting steeper and steeper. Last but not least, we are stuck now inside a range, but waiting for the boost to take over. The next one is Sand, a very similar scenario, except that instead of a wedge pattern, we've got a channel, and the upper also high is lining up with the upper trend line, as you can see in red. So by breaking above it, we would break above the 1.5 round number, the upper trend line, and this entire neckline, as we clearly see. And just like Link, as we dive inside the support area, we'll be looking for buy setups as well. But for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, we need to see a break above this neckline. Next, we've got Near, and we also have a rejection from the resistance lately. If we zoom out, we can see that we've got a support here, multiple rejections from it, and price broke it downward. So it's now acting as a resistance zone, just like previously. So rejected this resistance, and now we are forming the right shoulder. So we might have also an inverse head and shoulders pattern, price failing to make a lower low, instead making a higher low to form the pattern. And for the boost to take over, we would like to see a break above the neckline covering the entire structure, which would also be a break above this resistance zone for it to become a support again. In this case, we'll be expecting further movement upwards. Meanwhile, and as usual, as we trade higher to the lower support around 2.5, we'll be also looking for buy setups from a short-term perspective. Next, we've got Dot, very similar to Near and Sand. We rejected the trend line, that's our last high. We have an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming. It's still an idea. So a pattern would be an idea until we have the break above the neckline. Okay, so no matter which pattern, like a double bottom, a channel, or like any other pattern. Meanwhile, and as we trade lower, we'll be also looking for buy stops from lower time frames. For example, I zoom into lower time frames like M30 and H1 and look to catch this one. I wait for a high to be broken from lower time frames to catch the short-term bullish movement, and then we'll be waiting for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective by breaking above this area, which would also be the 10 round number. Next, we've got BAT, Basic Attention Token. Also, we rejected this resistance, 0.5. As we clearly see previously, has been acting as a resistance, support, support again multiple times, broken downward, now acting as a resistance zone. So we'd like to see a break above it, above this resistance for the bulls to take over. Also, it happens to be the round number 0.5, neckline covering the entire structure of the inverse head and shoulders pattern, which is still forming. And of course, as we trade lower, we'll be zooming into lower time frames here, and we'll be looking for bust ups from a short-term perspective. On AAVE, very similar scenario, just like NIR. We've got a resistance, previously a support, broken downward, resistance multiple times. So for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above the zone. In this case, a movement to the upper bound of the channel would be expected. Meanwhile, as we dive lower inside the support, I'll be looking for basket ups on lower time frames. And last but not least, we have FTM. Let me highlight. I don't know why I don't have it here. So an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming for the bulls to take over. We need to see a break above the neckline covering the entire structure. Meanwhile, as we dive inside the support again, or also it's a demand zone, as we clearly see from weekly time frame, the aggressive movement previously started from this area around 0.2. And like I still very much remember buying around 0.2 like last year. So from daily time frame, we have an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming, waiting for this for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective. From a short-term perspective, as we dive or approach the 0.2, I'll be also looking for positive ups from a short-term perspective. But for the bulls to take over, I want to see this. So from a short-term perspective, expecting this, and then maybe price would reject this area again to form an entire big range. So that's basically it. Hope you like this kind of videos. Let me know in the comment section below if you want me to go over different altcoins and comparing them, or for the ones that are forming very similar patterns. And I'll see you on the next one.